So autocratic leader have advantages and disadvantages, as mentioned. One of the advantages is the efficient for working with an inexperienced or a new team. It is very good when you're working with inexperienced or new team. You just reach out instruction to them and they just need to obey. And a very crucial decision can be made on the spot in a crisis when you do not have that luxury of time to be involved in a lot of people in decision making. So in very crucial time, you can use that. And it's good for constant productivity level. One of those disadvantages is input from employee is not allowed. Dependency on leader. You know, you depend on the leader all the time. And team morale is low due to work routine, not allowing creativity. Because when people made mistake, they are castigated for their mistake, they are punished for their mistakes. More absenteeism. It attracts more. This kind of a leadership attracts more absenteeism among the staff, and of course, high turnover. Then we have servant leadership. Servant leadership as humble people who don't think less of themselves. They just think themselves less. Servant leaders, servant leaders are humble people. They are humble people who do not think less of themselves. They just think about themselves less. They don't deny their power. They just realize it passes through them, not from them. That is how Blanchard 2007 has described servant leaders. A fundamental principle supporting servant leadership is to gain in-depth knowledge of followers. Graham, 1991, and Fall and Stone and Wilson, 1999, all assert that servant leadership is similar to Burns' 1978 transformational leadership. The servant leadership is very similar to transformational leadership in that both approaches encourage leaders and followers to raise one another to high level of motivation and morality. So servant leaders help their followers to grow. Servant leaders help their followers to grow, just like transformational leader and succeed, which in turn aid in accomplishing the organizational mission. The perception of a servant leader should be one of a courage steward who holds people accountable for their own good. And these are some of the characteristics of servant leadership. A servant leader encourages diversity of thoughts. That is to say, involve quite a number of people, a lot of people, all the staff in decision making. And when that happens, it simply means you have divergence uh, of opinion and thoughts. Create a culture of trust. This servant leader create a culture of trust among employee and have an unselfish mindset. And that's why we say they do not, as we said in the previous slide, that they do not think less of themselves. Rather, they think about themselves less. So that is act of being unselfish. They have an unselfish mindset. They foster leadership in others. They likely other leaders to become leaders themselves. Again, another very similar feature, very similar characteristic of transformational leader. They honor others before themselves. Another selfish mindset. They honor others before themselves. They like to inspire vision before certain. Because, hi, hello, how are you? Thank you very much. Thank you. Good, 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 good. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Sorry, Mohammed. Just one of a student that just popped in to say hello. Okay, so servant leaders inspire vision before setting the goals and choose ethics before profits. So the servant leaders place ethics before profit. They empower others before personal gain and privilege people before task. The balance focus with flexibility before making decision and serve with humility before all things else. And these are some of the characteristics of servant leader as well. Good listening skills. They are active listener and they observe non-verbal cues to really understand people and their needs. Empathy as well. This quality enable the servant leader to identify with the care for team members. This builds trust and support as well. They love to develop others. Servant leader look at the holistic wellness of those they lead, and they develop their team to be well mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. They care about their team. Emotional intelligence and where emotional intelligence helps servant leaders identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within their team. Also, persuasion. Uh, they are listening nature. The listening nature of the servant leader enables them to persuade the team to reach its potential. Big picture thinking. Servant leader can conceptualize a plan for the way forward, encouraging others to achieve the ultimate vision. They listened and be informed. Listening, gathering information and input from the entire team, and learning from previous mistakes is one of the characteristics of community development. Servant leaders also see way for the team to add social value. Some of the advantages and disadvantages of servant leader here: high morale. The employee likes their attitude and their benefits, so it enhances their morale. An engagement through collaboration, very, very strong ethic. Don't forget, one of their characteristics is that they put ethics before profit. However, just like democratic, it is very time consuming. And again, it's not suitable for whole organization. It's not suitable for whole organizations, and sometimes they can lose sight of goal and motivation becomes delicate if that happens. Then we have charismatic leadership. I think that's number four, I mean, number five or number six, or even number seven. We have talked about transformational, we have talked about transactional, we have talked about traits, we have talked about behavioral, which is number four. Then we have talked about servant leadership. We have talked about servant leadership. We have talked about democratic. We have talked about autocratic, number seven. We have talked about behavior, number eight. Now we are talking about charismatic, number nine. Charismatic leadership theory describes what to expect from both leaders and followers. It clearly describes what to expect from both leaders and followers. Leaders engage in extraordinary behaviors and display substantial expertise. Charismatic traits include communication, vision, trust, impression, management, and delegation of authority are all discussed. So Ronald Reagan, former president of the United States of America, has been described as an example of a charismatic leader. Charismatic leader by tapping follower higher order value and engaging their self-concept in identifying with their mission and vision generally motivate followers. They motivate followers to perform beyond their expected level of performance. Charismatic leaders also increase followers perceived, they increase followers perceived self-efficacy by communicating high performance expectations, expressing confidence in they express confidence in followers, ability to contribute to the mission, and emphasize the relationship between effort and important values. Shemaita suggests that charismatic leadership is more likely to influence individual performance when performance goal cannot be precisely defined and measured, and when the ways to achieve the goals are ambiguous. Also, in weak situation, charismatic leaders can appeal to and engage followers' values, identities, and self-concepts more readily in order to motivate them. Non-charismatic leaders rely on the traditional motivational processes of setting goals, increasing task identity, and providing feedback to enhance performance. This is some of the this is some of the characteristics of charismatic leadership. Vision, in terms of inspirational, they are able to motivate as vision often bring up ideas about possibilities for the futures, provides inspiring strategic and organizational goals, consistently generates new idea for the future of organization, articulation, exciting public speaker. Charismatic leaders are exciting public speaker, skillful performer when presenting their thoughts to the group. Environmental sensitivity, they readily recognize constraint in the social, cultural, physical environment, and within the organization, they recognize the skills and limitation of other members in the organization, and recognize the opportunity and seize them to achieve goal. Behavior. Charismatic leaders engage in unconventional behavior to achieve organizational goal. They use non-traditional means to achieve organizational goal and often exhibit very unique behavior that surprise other members of the organization. In terms of personal risk, they engage in activities involving personal risk and self-sacrifice. They take high personal risk for the sake of the organization and often incur high personal costs. Sensitivity to member needs. They show sensitivity and express personal concern for the needs and feelings of members in the organization, influences others by developing mutual liking and respect. If you look at this picture, it's a picture of some charismatic leaders that have been described as charismatic. For me, some of them are actually outstanding. They are very outstanding in terms of their features and what they do or what they have done. Mohammed, Cosmina, any question up until now?
All good, thank you.
Okay, guys. So give me 5 minutes. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, guys. Yeah. Uh, so as I said, these are some of the examples of charismatic leaders. From the right, on we have Angela Merkel, former Chancellor of Germany. We have Barack Obama. On the far left, on the top corner, we have Winston Churchill, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. In the middle, on the right, on the left, we have Richard Branson, and we also have Steve Jobs. The next one is ethical leadership. Ethical leadership means that individuals behave according to a set of principles and values that are recognized by the majority as sound as a sound basis for the common good. And from the word ethic, and anyway, these include integrity, it includes respect, trust, fairness, transparency, and honesty. So ethical leadership means both acting ethically and setting the standard for others to also act ethically. Leaders have an opportunity to inspire others not only to do the right thing, but also to consider the kind of people they want to be. According to Brown and et al., they define ethical leadership as the demonstration of normatively, the demonstration of normatively appropriate conducts through personal actions and interpersonal relationships, and the promotion of such conduct to follow through two-way communication, reinforcement, and decision making. So being ethical is about playing fair, thinking about welfare of others, and thinking about consequences of one's actions. Even if one grows up with a strong sense of good or bad, the bad behavior of others can undermine one ethical sense as well. Ethical leaders think about long-term consequences, drawbacks, and benefits of their decisions. For the sake of being true to their own values and beliefs, they prepare to compete in a different battle on the market where the imperative is do what is right. And of course, ethical leaders, they always do what is right and of course in a right way. It is not enough to espouse our standards. To live up to them and help others to do the same require an ethical cast of mind that lets you practice your principles consistently. And these are some of the elements of ethical leadership. We have honesty, which makes ethical leaders worthy of trust, the trust other place in them. It means leaders commit to presenting facts as they are, playing fair with competitors, and communicating honestly with others. Another element of ethical leadership is justice, which is to be fair, to treat everyone equally. To be fair means to treat everyone equally, offer equal opportunity with no favoritism, and condemn improper behaviors and manipulations, as well as any other actions that could harm someone. The next one is respect. Ethical leaders respect others around them, they respect themselves, and they also respect others around them, regardless of their positions or identifying characteristics. This means they listen to each other, they listen to each stakeholders, foster inclusion, and value diversity. Uh, the next one is integrity as well. So ethical leaders, they show integrity, and integrity is shown when values, words, and actions are aligned and consistent. And it is not enough to talk the talk, one has to walk the walk to demonstrate integrity. Responsibility, another element, means accepting to be in charge, embracing the power and duties that comes with it, and always responding and being present in challenging situations. And transparency is the last one, which uh, uh, which is concerned mainly the communication with all stakeholders. Transparent, communicating with all stakeholders. It means keeping an open dialogue, accepting feedback, and disclosing information others need to deliver their work. Not only disclosing them, but in a very, very clear way. So, role of ethical leadership in the in organizational culture. So we talked about ethical leadership and the elements. Ethical leader respect others. That's one of the role. They respect others. They build community. They build community. They manifest honesty. They show justice by being fair, and they serve others. I think for me, that for me is one of the most important role. They serve others. They are selfless leaders who offer to serve others. So some of the traits of ethical leader, they know their internal compass and value. They know their internal compass and values. Knowing oneself is the first trait of an ethical leader that they must possess. They know themselves. By knowing their own values and principles, they can make them feasible to others, take positions, and solidly enter negotiations. They have consistent ethical behavior. Reputation is built on repetition, consistent ethical behavior. So reputation is built on repetition, and ethical leaders knows that. Leaders are vulnerable. They are vulnerable as the trust that people place in them can quickly fade if they misbehave. No matter how well they have behaved in the past, leader must send continuous signals to show that people can continue to trust them. They do not tolerate deviations from the ethical code. If someone acts against the ethical code of conduct and the leader does not act, this will signal that the code of conduct is not important. Ethical leaders do not make exceptions in this area, and they immediately signal which behaviors are not tolerated. In doing so, they build consistency and credibility. They build consistency and credibility, and they avoid confusions and doubts about accepted behavior. So what that means is whenever there is a behavior that is not acceptable, they do not keep quiet over that, because keeping quiet means code of conduct is not important anymore. So they voice out. They raise their concern even if it is unpopular. Ethical leaders knows that overlooking important details may cause significant damages. They carefully observe situations to identify potential issues. When facing a doubt or a dilemma, ethical leaders raise their concerns, even if this means slowing things down or generating more work. They admit mistakes, ethical leaders. They admit their mistake and share a recovery plan if needed. If things go wrong, ethical leaders do not hide or minimize what happened. Instead, they own their mistakes, they apologize, find ways to solve the issues, and share all possible recovery plans with stakeholders. They are also willing to assume full responsibility. Lack of responsibility in organization often leads to ineffectiveness, confusion, inaction, and waste of time and resources. So ethical leaders hold themselves accountable. They take charge and shape the present and future through their words and deeds. They always show up and speak for their team. Ethical leaders are present in good and bad times, develop their team, and defend others when needed. So they are at the front when the storm hits. You know, when there's a problem, you don't find them missing. They are at the front. Uh, giving direction and helping get their team through the challenges. They know they are there to serve the interests of the team and organization above their own interests. They act with fairness. Ethic leaders, they act with fairness. Leader must take many decisions and negotiation. Their behavior clearly favors long-term wins over short-term wins. It also supports meritocracy and fair treatment of every individual, regardless of status, ethnicity, age, or any potential factors of discrimination. As I mentioned earlier on, they walk the walk, they walk the talk. Finally, ethical leaders act with integrity. They practice what they preach, and their values, words, and deeds are aligned and feasible for everyone to see. If they do not hold themselves to the same standard they present to others, their credibility and reputation would suffer. So if a leader is trying to preach a particular behavior and is not behaving that way, the reputation of such a leader will suffer damage, of course. And the leading by example is a choice of consciousness and requires daily focus, but pays off like nothing else. Uh, let's let's consider these activities. You're advised to reflect on one or two specific experience of leadership, one or two specific experience of leadership, either where you are a leader, a leadership role yourself as a leader, or where you could observe a leader where you are being led. Please consider that. What did you perceive as your strengths and weakness as a leader? No matter how little you have led, what strategies may be beneficial to effective leadership? What are the strategies you think an effective leader should have? And what strategy did Barack Obama employ as a leader? What are the strategies you think Barack Obama employed as a leader? I'm going to give you just 15 minutes to do this. Please do this in 15 minutes. We're going to discuss this at 2 o'clock. We can then have a break after that. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, guys. Cosmina, do you want to give it a go?
Yes.
Yes.
So for me, I haven't been like in a leadership role, but I would say for the strengths like good communication and empathy,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, like I think like communication is the most important, and it's really a strength for a leader, like the way they talk and the way they inspire people to follow and work with them. And
Okay.
for the weaknesses, if I think about me as a leader, I would say the struggle to delegate, because
Mm.
personally I find it difficult
Mm.
to delegate tasks, let's say, or tell someone what to do. And then like for the second questions, for what strategies may be beneficial to effective leadership, um, I would say being adaptable and open to feedback,
Mm.
because I feel sometimes like, for example, at my workplace, sometimes our leaders they say, "Oh, we are gonna give feedback and it's positive and everything," but I feel like when the feedback goes the other way, they don't receive it properly. They don't like it.
Mm.
So I feel like feedback has to go both ways. Especially like leaders should be also open to feedback.
That's right.
Yeah. And for the Barack Obama question, I think like his best strategy was the way he was talking. Like
Mm.
he was always like calm, and he motivated people. Like the way he was speaking, he made people like feel hopeful, like united. He brought people together.
Mm.
So yeah, that's from me.
Yeah, fantastic. Yes, fantastic. Thank you, Cosme. Yeah. Well, Barack Obama, quite a number of people have appreciate the way his communication skills. He
Yeah.
communicates very well, and probably that is one of his strengths. Probably that is one of the strengths of Barack Obama, which quite a number of people have alluded to. Thank you very much. Uh, let's take a break. Let's take our second break for today, and we'll come back at 2:30. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Welcome back. We're gonna finish a little bit early today. Uh, let's conclude by discussing strategic leadership. We've been discussing about leadership, but now we're gonna add strategy to leadership. When we say strategic leadership, it means the ability to influence others to voluntarily, and I need you to underline that, to voluntarily make decisions that enhance the prospects for the organization's long-term success while maintaining short-term financial stability. Strategic leadership is a practice in which executives using different style of management develop a vision for the organization that enables it to adopt to or remain competitive in a changing economic and technological climate. So strategic leaders are able to use their vision to motivate employees and departments, fostering among them a sense of unity and direction in order to implement change within their organization. So the main objectives of strategic leadership are to streamline processes, to boost strategic productivity, to promote innovation and cultivate an environment that encourages employees to be productive, independent, and to push forward their own ideas. Strategic leaders have the organizational ability to be strategically oriented, to translate strategy into action, to align people and organizations in terms of objectives, to determine effective strategic intervention points, that is to say, when strategic intervention is required, at what time and when, and to develop strategic competencies. Strategic leaders display a dissatisfaction or relentless with present, always looking for how to make things better. They display absorptive capacity and adaptive capacity, and of course, wisdom. So strategic leaders have the ability to be strategically oriented. This quality involves the ability to consider both the long-term future, seeing the bigger picture, as well understanding the current contextual setting of the organization. So strategic orientation, when we say strategic orientation, that is the ability to link long-range visions and concepts to daily work, to bring that together. Strategic leadership can also be defined as utilizing strategy in the management of employees. It is the potential to influence organizational members and to execute organizational change. So strategic leaders create organizational structure, allocate resources, and express strategic vision. Strategic leaders work in an ambiguous environment on very difficult issues that are influenced by occasions and organizations external to their own. Let's watch this short video about strategic leadership.
Hey traders, in this video, we're going to introduce the Smart AI Indicator, which we developed in partnership with OpenAI. This is...
Hello everyone, welcome to Business School 101. We are stubborn on vision. We are flexible on details. This Jeff Bezos quote gives us a glimpse into the mind of a strategic business leader. For organizations to be competitive, their leaders must be in sync with the organization's mission and strategic objectives. This is where strategic leadership plays a vital role in any organization. So, what is strategic leadership? To be an effective strategic leader, what are the core required skills? How to become a strategic leader, and how CEOs spend their days. In this video, I will discuss these questions with you. Section 1. Real-world examples. Before we jump to the definition and principles, here are 3 real-world examples of strategic leaders. Number 1. Jeff Bezos. As Amazon's founder and former CEO, Jeff Bezos is a perfect example of how thinking about the big picture can lead an organization to success. He founded the company in 1994 because he heard the statistic that internet usage was increasing by over 2,000% every year. With that potential growth, Bezos knew an e-commerce platform could be hugely successful long-term. In the last 2 decades, Amazon has expanded from its origins as an online bookstore to a massive conglomerate of e-commerce, digital streaming, artificial intelligence, and more. Number 2. Elon Musk.
This is paradise.
As the co-founder and CEO of Tesla, Musk shared his passion for high-performance electronic vehicles as early as 2006. Besides Model X and Model S, he also wants to develop a wide range of electric cars and trucks, including affordable family sedans and SUVs. Besides the transportation industry, Elon Musk is also disrupting the solar energy and space travel industries. Number 3. Steve Jobs. Jobs' vision and strategy execution is credited for establishing Apple as a leader in technology products. His strategy focused on customer service, ease of use, and simplicity of the product, which are all features that set Apple apart from competitors today. In 1996, Jobs returned to Apple after 11 years away to help the company get out of its slump. He refocused a strategy to prioritize the consumer experience and product innovation, and within the next 10 years, Apple introduced the iPod, iPad, and iPhone. This quickly turned Apple around from a struggling company to a tech leader. Section 2. Definition. After introducing some real-world examples, let us define what strategic leadership is. Strategic leadership is defined as the ability to influence others, to voluntarily make day-to-day decisions that enhance the long-term viability of the organization while maintaining its short-term financial stability. Specifically, strategic leaders possess the ability to streamline processes, increase productivity, foster innovation, and create an environment of creativity and initiative among employees. In today's disruptive environment, such leaders ensure that their company maintains a competitive edge. Please be aware that strategic leadership is different from operational leadership. Operational leadership is about solving problems and finding solutions to day-to-day operational issues and challenges. In contrast, strategic leaders normally think about the big picture, which includes creating an organization's overall vision and what actions could affect the organization's long-term performance. Section 3. Core skills. To be an effective strategic leader, here are the core required skills. 1. Vision. Strategic leaders are constantly looking toward the future to understand what it could potentially look like or how they could make mindful and thoughtful improvements. They often will see the potential of a situation and articulate that vision as something to work toward. 2. Goal setting. After finding that vision, strategic leaders can set goals and establish a plan to make that result come to life. They don't just see the finish line and leave the rest of the process ambiguous. They're able to identify what tactical steps and tasks are required to achieve their strategic vision. 3. Comfort with change. Change is constant for strategic leaders, and that doesn't make them feel anxious. Instead, they're comfortable with it and see it as a telltale sign that things are improving within their environment. A change-oriented leader understands new tactics and goals are part of moving the organization toward the future.
Hey traders, in this video, we're going to introduce the Smart AI Indicator, which we developed in partnership with OpenAI. This is
4. Communication. The best strategic leaders are the ones who not only have a vision and plan for the future, but they're also able to communicate their goals and strategies effectively. Otherwise, they won't have a team to help them get there. They're able to spell out the why of any plan and explain what's needed from each individual to make it happen. 5. Collaboration. Similarly, strategic leaders are excellent collaborators. They know it takes multiple people and teams to make the vision come to life and rely on those partners to bring their knowledge, skills, and expertise to help achieve the shared end goal. 6. Influence. Leaders who follow the strategic leadership style also have a high level of influence in their organization. They know how to influence without authority and can share the benefits of the vision with skeptical partners to bring them on board. 7. Execution. Strategic leaders can get things done. They don't shy away from decision-making. They understand how to take action on a plan or their goals and can help others be inspired to get things done as well. Strategic leaders also make the most of the resources or support available to them to complete their mission. 8. Optimism. Keeping a positive attitude is vital whether things go as intended. Team members look up to their leaders, so strategic leaders need to maintain an optimistic outlook. It encourages the team, gives them hope, and motivates them to keep trying, even when situations appear challenging. Section 4. How to become a strategic leader. Here are a few ways that can help you become a strategic leader. 1. Think about the big picture. To think more strategically, you have to get comfortable analyzing the situation from all angles. That includes zooming out from the minute detail and ensuring that you're understanding and considering the big picture. By developing a big picture thought process, you'll be able to quickly understand the scope of an issue and focus on it. 2. Anticipate what could happen. Once you've mastered looking at things from a broader lens, try to identify potential roadblocks or innovations that may come up in the next 3, 5, or even 10 years. Then, see how you can prepare to address those potential issues or capitalize on potential opportunities to get ahead in your industry. 3. Communicate effectively. Communication is a key leadership skill that's vital for anyone to be successful in leading a group of people. If you want to work on your communication skills, try one of these tips. Number 1. Listen to understand, not just wait until you can speak next. Number 2. Take a beat before speaking to gather your thoughts. Number 3. Speak succinctly and get to the point. Number 4. When asking for assistance, explain the reasoning behind the request. Number 5. Use communication mediums strategically and ask yourself if a phone call or face-to-face conversation would be more effective than an email. Number 6. Take notes during meetings and send out a recap of the conversation with clear next steps and responsibilities. Number 7. Make eye contact and use open, unaggressive body language. 4. Practice collaboration. You can improve your collaboration skills by setting clear expectations and deliverables for your employees or working team.
This is paradise.
How do we ever leave a place like
With tasks and responsibilities laid out for everyone to see before diving into the work, teammates can work together more efficiently and without letting duties slip through the cracks. 5. Learn the art of strategy execution. Remember that, ultimately, a great leader does not just plan to take action. You need to be able to get things done. So, how do leaders guide teams toward success? A detailed strategic plan or timeline is a good place to start. It may also be helpful to prepare any contingency plans in the event a deliverable needs to be pushed back or the team runs into roadblocks along the way. Section 5. How CEOs spend their days. In a recent study of more than 350 CEOs, strategy scholars found that they spend, on average, 67% of their time in meetings, 13% working alone, 7% on email, 6% on phone calls, 5% on business meals, and 2% on public events such as ribbon cutting for a new factory. Other studies have also found that most managers prefer oral communication. CEOs spend most of their time interacting with a wide array of parties inside and outside the organization. Surprisingly, given the advances in information technology, CEOs today still spend most of their time in face-to-face meetings. They consider face-to-face meetings most effective in getting their message across and obtaining the information they need. Not only do meetings present data through presentations and verbal communications, but they also enable CEOs to pick up on rich nonverbal cues such as facial expressions, body language, and mood that are not apparent to them if they use email or Zoom. Alright, that's all for today's topic. So, what do you think about strategic leadership? Do you have any related experience?
Strategic leader have the following ability and capacity. Strategic leaders have the ability to align people and organization. We talked about that. That is to say, in terms of the objective, they have the ability to determine effective intervention point. We mentioned that as well. The ability to develop strategic capability. Strategic leaders have absorptive capacity. Cohen and Levinthal define absorptive capacity as the ability to absorb new information and assimilate it and learn from it, and importantly, apply it to new ends. And they have adaptive capacity. The Black and Bow and Ambrick 1989 define ability to change as adaptive capacity, that is, ability to change as the situation dictates. They have leadership wisdom, strategic leaders. They have leadership wisdom. Wisdom may simply be defined as the capacity to take the right action at the right time. Some traits and quality of strategic leaders include loyalty. Powerful and effective leaders demonstrate their loyalty to their vision by their words and actions and keeping them updated. Efficient and effective leaders keep themselves updated about what is happening within their organization, even outside of the organization. There are various formal and informal sources of information in the organization. Judicious use of power. Strategic leader makes a very wise use of power. They must play the power game skillfully and try to develop consent for their ideas rather than forcing their ideas upon people. They must push their ideas gradually. Motivation, they must have a zeal for work that goes beyond money and power, and they should have an inclination to achieve goals with energy and determination. Compassion, strategic leaders must understand the view and feelings of their subordinates and make decisions after considering them. Self-control, they must have potential to control distracting and disturbing mood and desires. They must think before they act. Self-awareness, strategic leaders must have the potential to understand their own moods and emotions as well as their impact on others. Readiness to delegate authority. Effective leaders are proficient at delegation. They are aware of the facts that delegation will avoid overloading of responsibility on the leaders. They also recognize the fact that authorizing the subordinate to make decisions will motivate them a lot and help them to grow. Articulate, strong leader articulate enough to communicate, they articulate enough to communicate the vision of where the organization is and where the organization should go to the organizational member, of course. There is a strong link between corporate culture and strategic management. A company is managed and strategic decisions are made using the same value, beliefs, and principles set through the organizational culture. This is because strategies set the direction and the focus, elaborate plans and formal environments for employees to understand the organization's goal, while culture helps accomplishing goals by encompassing them in the organization's shared value, by embedding them in organization's shared values and beliefs. So organization activities are shaped through culture and strategy and works at best when values, policies, strategies, and practices are harmonized. When an alignment is formed between organization culture and strategic management, the organization wins in the competitive advantage in global markets. And the strategic plan needs to be constant with culture, and the board has the mission to set the risks, appetite, and the risk tolerance for the organization. This is just an alignment between strategy and culture. You can see the alignment between the strategy and culture. Strategy forms the guiding part, and the culture forms the driving part. The culture of an organization is its personality and character. Organization culture is made up of shared values, beliefs, assumptions about how people should behave and interact, and how decisions should be made, and how work activities should be carried out. On the other hand, organizational structure is the norms, rules, policies formed by the organization to achieve its objectives. Organization culture includes the value, behavior, and attitude of the employees. Both are equally important for the success of organization. That is to say, organizational structure and organizational culture both are important for the success of organization. Let's watch this short video about culture, organizational culture.
New Schwarzkopf Gliss, nourishing formula with keratin for 100% stronger hair. hardest thing is to get started. You have to get it on paper.
Do you remember when 20,000 people walked out of Google in protest of unfair and unequal treatment of women at the company? On a single day? The protest was dramatic. It was headline grabbing. It sent a clear signal. We will no longer check our identities and our values at the workplace door. It was also the exception rather than the rule. Because while brave, certainly brave, the Google employees felt safe enough to organize collectively without fear of reprisals. They felt secure enough that even if they lost their jobs, they'd still probably be highly employable somewhere else. Not everyone has that luxury. Not everyone feels that way about speaking up at work. Social movement scholars would call the Google walkouts a mobilizing structure. Others mobilize in different ways, depending on their context and their cause. In fact, walkouts do happen pretty much every day in the workplace. They're just not normally done with our feet. Instead, they're checkouts. They're invisible walkouts that happen with our hearts and with our hands and with our voices. And let's be honest, amongst the TED group here, pretty much all of us have checked out at some point in our careers, haven't we? When we feel psychologically unsafe or unvalued, we protest quietly, sometimes even silently or subconsciously. Maybe we stop trying as hard at work. Or maybe we act in ways that subtly undermine leadership or act against the organization's objectives just a little bit. In corporate speak, we become disengaged or actively disengaged. Like 70% of the workforce, at a cost of hundreds of billions of dollars a year to the global economy. So, if you're an executive and you want to avoid walkouts or checkouts before they become issues at your organization, there are 3 things that you can do. First, unblock communication. Walkouts and checkouts happen when we feel that we're not being heard, we're not being respected or considered in the workplace. And just about all of us have experienced having our ideas shot down or ignored in the workplace. When it happens, we tend to experience it as an identity threat. Some of us respond to that by closing down, shutting off. When we feel that we don't belong or that we're unimportant, our reaction is to stop caring as much about our work and caring as much about the people around us. So I remember feeling heartbroken when I was a new manager. I just asked a colleague of mine with decades of work experience for a recommendation on a problem that she'd brought to me. We stood in agonizing silence while she searched for an answer, any answer. After a long pause, she looked up and said, "I have never been asked what I think at work before." Now that is tragic, and it's all too common. And to avoid this pitfall, we need to continually invite people to speak up at work, because making these invitations just a routine part of how we engage with each other in the workplace actually lays really important groundwork that is needed for those times when people have to speak up and have to be heard on issues that are hard for management to hear. Backed into a corner by the scale and the intensity of the protests, Google CEO Sundar Pichai had a choice. He could choose to respond in a way that would close the door to people acting in line with their values, or he could choose to open it wider. Pichai's public response to the protests was not defensive. Instead, he sent an email out to the whole company. He said, "I understand the anger and disappointment that many of you feel. I feel it too. And I'm fully committed to making progress on an issue that has persisted for far too long in our society. And yes, here at Google too." He informed managers of the planned activities. He reassured protesters that they would have the support that they needed. But checkouts, because they're invisible, are even harder to notice and address than a 20,000 person walkout. Instead, managers have to proactively unblock the organization. They need to ask questions, they need to invite input, they need to foster creative conflict. But especially in that fragile moment where people have the courage to challenge us, we too need to embrace them for it. But then we need to become responsive, because we know, don't we, that it's not enough just to hear people out. Words without action breeds cynicism. They lay the seeds for future walkouts and checkouts. The Google walkouts were not a first step. They were a last resort. The Google employees had already spoken to managers and HR and ombuds people. This was an escalation because they felt their issues were not being addressed, they're not being taken seriously. And while Pichai's response was a good one, it was supportive, some people continue protesting to this day at Google because they do not feel that sufficient action has followed the supportive words. Now, when managers and employee activists are on the same page, then action is a natural next step. But here's the thing, we're not always going to agree, are we? Sometimes employee activists will raise issues that managers just don't agree with. And in that fragile moment, we will determine what kind of culture we will have. Will we engage in dialogue and debate? Can we stay unified even in dissent? Or will we choose to skate over our differences, allow our relationships to become inauthentic, and our identities to become diluted? What will it be? Well, at a minimum, we can try to have dialogue. We can try to resolve our differences and find common ground that, even if it's not ideal for any one party, might be acceptable for all. And sometimes, though, that is just too hard. The common ground can't be found. And in that difficult place, we have three choices. First, if we feel we can't live with the resolution, then we can choose to leave the company. We can find employers whose values more closely align with our own. Or, second, we can choose to stay with the company. We can compartmentalize, keep doing a good job, and hope for an issue, look for a time to address the issue again in the future. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos is an advocate of a third path. He says, let's disagree and commit. Address the issue head on, and he'll ask his team, look, I know we don't agree here, but will you gamble with me on it? And if your reservoir of trust in your relationship is deep enough, you can continue to move forward on the work and agree to keep working on the issue as you go. Any one of those options is better than the alternative of checking out, which is a surefire path to organizational demise and professional misery. So finally, aim higher. Doesn't it seem like a low bar just to avoid checkouts and walkouts? Shouldn't we strive for more? We need to invite people to bring their whole selves to work, because when everyone can bring their life experiences, we just have so much more to offer. We are more than the sum of our resumes. This is Joan Bohan. Joan is a finance director at Disney Europe. She's also a mother. And her son, Roman, has dyslexia. Did you know that 1 in 10 people live with dyslexia? That's a huge population serve, a huge potential market for a company like Disney. So when Disney announced an internal contest for new and impactful business ideas, Joan just couldn't resist applying. She'd heard about modifications that made it easier for dyslexics to read, different, larger fonts, wider spaces between letters, rulering between lines, but these weren't widely available. Could Disney help with that? Because Disney invited Joan to bring her whole self to work and all of her unique strengths, values, passions, experiences, they can now better serve millions of people with dyslexia. So all this sounds good. Unblock communication, become responsive, aim higher. Where do we begin? Well, I'd like to end by offering you a short test. I'd like you on Monday morning to go back into work, and I'd like you to walk around and, after some pleasant chit-chat, talk to 10 different people and ask them this question. Hi, what don't we talk about around here that we really should be talking about? You'll probably get one of those awkward silences, and that's okay. If they do pause, then say, come to me later, tell me what you find. If no one has anything, then your organization is probably blocked. But that's okay. By asking the question, you have signaled openness. Keep going. Keep asking the questions. Ari Weinzweig, CEO of Zingerman's, likes to say, success doesn't mean we have no problems, it means we have better problems. And my closing wish for you is that you earn better problems. By unblocking communication, by becoming responsive, over time, more and more people will open up and start sharing more of themselves, their ideas, their unique offerings. And over time, you will have a new, better problem. Harnessing that energy and aiming higher. Thank you.
So you talked about culture, and now it helps to serve people. The culture of an organization, we talked about this, but we can just mention it again, that the culture of an organization is important personality and character, and it's made up of shared values, beliefs, and all of that. We already mentioned these earlier on. Organizational culture is an intrinsic factor. Yeah. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. Organizational culture is an intrinsic factor of organizational behavior. It directs the way people behave in an organization by determining assumptions, values, norms, attitudes, according to which organization members guide themselves in their daily activities. And on the other hand, organizational structure is an extrinsic factor. The culture is an intrinsic, the structure is an extrinsic factor, which influences people's behavior from the outside through formal limitations set by division of labor, authority distribution, grouping of units, and coordination. Therefore, one's behavior in an organization is the result of the impact of its culture and structure. And that is how important the two can be. It has been argued that contextual factors such as size of the organization, technology, external environment, which include political, economic, sociocultural, technological, environmental, legal environment, dependence on the organizations, depend on other organizations, have impacts on organizational structure. And contextual factors sometimes impose constraint on organizational structure. That is the link between the structure and culture. As I said, we're going to be finishing a little bit early today. Any question from Cosmina, from Mohammed?
All good for me, thank you.
Mohammed? Any question, Mohammed? Okay. Then we would have to end it today here, and we would see again tomorrow. So I will see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you so much. See you tomorrow.